Invisible suits and televisual portals. Dual-adaptive camouflage and dual-adaptive telepresence are inverse forms of each other. Let me explain first. This is an invisible suit with a puppet interface. And this is how I imagine dual-adaptive camouflage to be. This is dual-adaptive camouflage. Cross-section of the invisible suit with puppet light interface inside. Light going in, light going out, puppet light interface. Adaptable to itself, the puppet interface itself, as well as its environment. Outside of suit is also considered part of the environment. Okay. Now, dual-adaptive telepresence, infinite recursion of telepresence. I'll say this and then I'll go to these pictures. The chain of matter, light, light only, matter, light, light only, matter, light, light only, matter, light interfaces are the states of the interface system comparable to a pseudo puppet interface and its range of motion. If you consider the outside environment adaptable to itself and a local or a non-local environment, if you consider the outside world is considered a matter and light holodeck, like the world outside is a giant holodeck, and this is a cloaking interface, and this is the primary holodeck of Bob. I guess he'll be called Bob. And this is Alice, but this is her in her physical form. And this shows sort of what I was meant to get at, but this one shows it better. Bob's self is taken up into the light only negative casting interface holodeck and sent over to Alice's body. Her visual content is brought up into the negative holodeck light only interface and sent over to Bob's in a virtual form. But this continues. This shows Alice, her virtual form, together with Bob's physical form again, in a recursive row, going back up into his interface and out into hers, while he's in his virtual form that's already passed through here. And his virtual form together with her virtual form and real form are brought up again into here in both their virtual forms, and his is brought back into his physical form, overlapping his body. If the interfaces were anywhere less than symmetric or ideal, then the people inside would see their light forms lagging behind their movements, or in some form not quite matching up to their bodies, because the spheres are made to center the holodeck virtual forms back onto their bodies, apparently back onto their bodies. And you could look down, and if the interfaces weren't perfectly done, you could probably look down at your hand and see a waviness of it around it, where your virtual form doesn't quite match up to your body, because it's taking it through from the physical body to the virtual body to the other person's physical body holodeck, and both the back up, both the physical person Bob and Alice's virtual form back up and as light forms, and reinforcing her body again with her light form. So, and he's reinforcing himself again with his light form. So either two could see themselves not quite match up if the interfaces weren't quite built perfectly. So this is the Bob's holodeck or portal, and I drew him in here. This is supposed to be Bob, overlooking the ocean or whatever, in his main holodeck. There's a secondary holodeck behind it. This would be the outside world is considered a matter-light interface holodeck. That's a cloaking interface, which is light only. And this is the matter and light holodeck, and this is a secondary holodeck light interface, light only. And this is the Alice's. I drew her in here. That's Alice at the graveyard. And I drew the outside of this environment, of this ocean environment, is considered a matter and light interface holodeck, and the cloaking interface is light only. The holodeck, the main primary holodeck, is a matter and light interface, and the secondary holodeck is a light only, which goes back into Bob's, which goes back through this system into Alice's, which is drawn right here, but it's drawn better, I think, right here to show the recursive nature. And the states of these different chain of holodecks, matter and light only holodecks, is equivalent to the movements of a pseudo-puppet interface. A pseudo-puppet interface in its range of motion. So that's where I see that dual-adaptive camouflage and dual-adaptive telepresence are inverse forms of each other. The adaptive puppet interface is adaptable to itself, while the interfaces of the portal are adaptable to the objects inside, as well as the environment outside. So the objects inside, persons in this case, people in this case, can be considered the interface itself of the puppet light interface. And the outside environment is the outside environment, local and non-local, local and non-local. So these are my comparisons to invisibility, invisible suits, and televisual portals, dual-adaptive camouflage and dual-adaptive telepresence, inverse forms of each other. Well, thanks a lot.